Hello dears, Natalie Locke here with episode 85 of Write the Story, where I give you a prompt and 10 words out of this book to write the story. The way I normally do this is take 5 to 10 minutes to outline and then 20 minutes, sometimes longer. Life happens. I have kids because I made life happen. If it takes longer, it's okay. The main rule of flash fiction is it just has to be 1,000 words or less. If this is your first time doing a flash fiction, I recommend setting no time limit at all. If you would like, you can do an outline. You could change the 10 words as long as the root word is still there, or not do all 10 words, just get most of them. Whatever works for you in writing your own stories. This is about your growth and no comparison is needed. Let me go ahead and give you episode 85's prompt and words. The prompt is, memory editing wreaks havoc. The words to include are Jupiter, chocolate, domestic, blossom, ladder, steam, extension, pinecone, sunrise, and tide. I'm going to go ahead and let you know I have one word that is the same between my outline and my story. I don't know what happened, but I'm actually kind of glad it changed because my outline kind of sucks. But I will say this prompt and the story that I wrote and everything has given me this idea of creating an entire world. Much bigger than in flash fiction. Probably even bigger than a short story, maybe even bigger than a novella. But let me go ahead and give you the little scenes that popped in my head for each word. For Jupiter, I was thinking, oh, Jupiter is like an exclamation. I don't know who's going to say it, but I put that down. The next thing I was thinking, showing someone being very patient as they were kind of letting chocolate melt in their mouth instead of actually biting it and chewing it, which was going to be patience, but also kind of show that they're might be a little weird, because I honestly don't know anyone that does that. But more power to you if you have that patience. I end up chewing it. I do the same thing with Jolly Ranchers and Lifesavers, any of those hard candies. I end up biting at some point. The next thing was domestic memories. I was like, there's got to be some categories of memories, and maybe there's domestic ones, but I ended up not going that route. The next one was blossom into happiness, because in this world I was thinking maybe memory editing is used to handle trauma. You saw something painful and you're having difficulty reaching over it. And the moment that your memories are edited, your face just blossoms into happiness. And I was thinking that that was the route I was going to go. I could still use that for the overall story, but for this flash fiction, I ended up not including that. For steam, I was thinking, I was trying to combine it with another word, so I said steam rising from a pine cone, and then the person realizes, no, that's not steam, that's smoke, because the pine cone's on fire. Ended up cutting that and splitting those two words. The next one is asking for a time extension to watch movies, which in this world, movies was actually different, like almost like TikTok a little bit, of memories. And you could watch a series and such. So it was an idea I had, and I might still go with that. For ladder, I was thinking, well, let's say my main character is a cop and she's combing through these memories to solve a case. But then I was thinking, well, they would have to store the memory somewhere. So I had an idea that the memory location has a ladder that she has to climb up to. Still kept a ladder, but I didn't use it in that sense. And then sunrise while walking downtown, I ended up changing that, and I put the sunrise at the beach. You'll see that in the story. And then the last one of, I was trying to be poetic, I guess. I said, like the tide, right when I think I have this, it goes away. Yeah, that didn't work. So those is how I incorporated the little scenes I took in my head with each word. But honestly, the only one I kept even close is asking for a time extension, and it's not in the same sense that I wrote it. So out of 10 words, 9 changed. Let me go ahead and read you my version of episode 85. Detective Briggs inserted a small cube into the slots next to the memory tracker. She climbs into the cylinder and pulls the door closed. Once sealed, the screen plays around her, of her in a convenience store. Sarah? A person to her right asks. Detective Briggs turns to the voice and sees a man eating a Kit Kat, completely ignoring the perforation of the many bars of chocolate. What in Jupiter's moons? I knew that was you. Hey, Charlie is here too. Do you still live down on Crescent? He asked. Detective Briggs nodded her head without even realizing it. She studied the man who looked like a domestic biker, all leather, but his hair and beard were trimmed, conditioned, and brushed. Going to pay for your stuff? He motions to the handful of goodies in Sarah's grasp. Detective Briggs glances to her hands and nods as she glides to the checkout. She swipes her watch on the circle before walking through the parallel bars and exiting the shop. The man caught up to her. Hey, Sarah, it's great running into you. I really want you to see Charlie. He's doing great. She sighed and raised her index finger to press the air. The entire world swirled around until she found herself on the boardwalk at sunrise. Charlie, what can we do? She asked, her voice not her own. We can lay low. James doesn't know what you saw that day. You're safe. Detective Briggs shakes her head. No, I'm a witness to the court. They're going to alter my memories, and if they can't, they'll end my memories. She says, more accustomed to the voice coming out of her. I'm not going to let that happen, Charlie says as he grabs her hands. The tide licked their feet, and something prickly touched Sarah's foot. What did you say the day you ran into James? Charlie asked. Detective Briggs' brow furrows as she picked up a pine cone. Her gaze sweeps the horizon. A proper English voice sounded through the air. Your time is almost up. Please say, time extended, Detective Briggs says to the sky before turning back to Charlie. What did you say the day you ran into James? Charlie asked, exactly as he did before. She looks at the pine cone in her hand and throws it into the ocean. A splash blossomed into the flower before allowing gravity to make it melt into the sea again. James, Detective Briggs says. Her index finger presses in the air again as the world spins back to her being outside the convenience store with James. Holding up her palm, the city stopped. The steam from the underground manhole on the sidewalk looks like frosted glass art. The woman across the road was on a ladder straightening her sign with a book, wearing a blouse, pencil skirt, and penny loafers. Detective Briggs turns to look at James, who was standing behind her. She followed his gaze across the street to two men putting another man into the back of a Chevy Bel Air. Behind James was the window of the convenience store, where Detective Briggs did not see Sarah's reflection staring back at her. End memory, she says as she pushes the door open, and the entire screen goes black before letting in the light of the room. I know that look, Detective Rivers says. What did you see, Briggs? These aren't Sarah's memories. These were tampered. The first memory had to be a library originally, and the second was definitely in a park or a forest, not the beach. Briggs grabs the memory cube and hands it to Rivers. Send this to forensics to find the root memory, who the original viewer was, and maybe then we can catch Sarah's killer. I really liked this story. Overall, the suspense that I had, the world building that I had, I think I can do a little bit better, but I also have a lot of things in my head on how the world building would go. So I'm really happy with this one. I might have to star this one. I'm going to go ahead and star this. So it's been a while since I've started a story, but this one I'm starring because I could see the world expanding here. Much, much bigger. Let's talk about, because it's been a while, let's talk about what I need to fix, what I need to work on. One thing that I noticed for sure, we really should have a difference in looks between James and Charlie, because I realized when I was rereading, you could almost assume Charlie was like maybe Sarah's son or something. And I don't want that. I really want these to like be two adult males. And I really want that to be shown, but I can only do that if I describe how they look. Because we don't know it's James at first. And I think that's what I need to do better next time, is describing the people so that way when they come on scene, the reader has a picture of themselves instead of just like this figure of somebody, like a silhouette or something. My favorite line is actually two favorite lines. It's, she studied the man who looked like a domestic biker, all leather, but his hair and beard were trimmed, conditioned, and brushed. I was proud of that line. I was proud of those two lines together because I feel like it paints a picture. So even though I described James as like this biker dude, I really should have described Charlie. Like maybe he had long hair or rough around the edges or something. Any of those things. I really could have done better with that. But that line, I feel, paints a picture of what he's wearing and how he presents himself. And I think I'm proud of myself on that one. I feel like I could have done more. I needed to compare more, like maybe hair color, skin tone, maybe if it was necessary, any of those things. But I will be honest, in a lot of my stories, I avoid skin tone reference completely because I also want my characters, if I'm ever so lucky it to be made into a movie, I don't want anyone to be held to that whatsoever. I'll do hair color maybe a little bit, but also people can dye their hair, so it really doesn't matter. But that's where I'm feeling it, and I think I did really good with that description. It was colorful, unique, and I'm happy with it. I feel like I got a glimpse of something good. And then not to mention how I'm imagining this whole world being, and also how okay I was with just throwing the story down. Like at one point I was struggling with it and I was like, Natalie, stop over analyzing this. Just get the words on the page. Who cares if it makes sense? Who cares if it sounds good? Just, you could even have something simple as Sarah and James talk. Sarah changes the memory, which is actually Detective Briggs, changes the memory and is talking to Charlie at the beach. Like, that could have been my story if I needed it to, so that I could get it out. So I think I am continuing on my lesson from Flash Fiction February, which is just get the story on the page. It's okay if you don't love it. You can love it later. Right now, you just need to breathe life into it. Hopefully you do better than I do and find more joy in your work. I know my joy might be delayed and come into editing with some of my work, but hopefully you can find joy into your work, your passion, whatever you're following, and find that joy every single day, every week, every month, and every year.